Hi everybody, welcome to my case study on paramedics and self-directed learning. So, just to give a little background, I've been a paramedic for 4 years, which is why I chose this subject. Once any healthcare professional graduates, they need to do some form of self-learning, which is why I chose to do this, because I'm just interested to see the psychological reasons why certain self-learning aspects are good for one profession and not others. And recent advancements has allowed technology to change the way that we are brought up to date on current practices and guidelines. So currently my EMS service gives us this website to update, and it's just a variety of different patient presentations, from avalanches to scuba diving accidents, and you just watch a lecture on it and then do a quiz at the end, and hopefully you've learned something. There's the ability to sign mandatory lessons. However, most of these lessons that you saw on that other screen were voluntary. So, for example, we had to do a mandatory lesson on Ebola, but anything else within the last few months we haven't had to do. This means a paramedic could only study the mandatory lessons and be in danger of being up to date with the most current. So before we begin, I'll pull up this slide, and it was on our one of the videos that we watched, number 2.2, and it was just characteristics of or questions of characteristics of self-directed learning. So think about this as we go through and see if you would have a similar or different self-directed learning style as a paramedic would. So the goals of self-directed learning, which is you'd also see in our presentation, first one would be to enhance the ability of the adult learners to be self-directed in their learning. So for a paramedic, this would generally be us wishing to improve ourselves, become more knowledgeable, and therefore more equipped to treat our patient. To foster transformational learning as central to self-directed learning. Often reflection is important in this, and we find ourselves reflecting back critically on patients we've had in the past and saying, how could I treat this patient better, or what could I have done differently to maybe have a better patient outcome. And that's just used to motivate us to study more. And the final one is to promote emancipatory learning and social action. So 40 years ago, our paramedics were driving hearse and known as ambulance drivers. So now we've become a lot more knowledgeable, and it's just kind of showing nurses and doctors that we deserve to have that respect. So there are several different models of self-directed learning. The one that I thought was most appropriate for paramedics is the interactive approach. So in that, there's a list of 4 different criteria, and 2 or more need to be present in self-directed learning opportunities. So first one is opportunities found in the environment. So that's just there's the chance that you can learn new stuff. So for us, that's that website. There's always the opportunity for you to learn if you have some downtime. There's the personal characteristics of the learner. If you're just motivated to learn, or some people are very lazy and want to avoid learning, it can be hit or miss if that's a good or bad thing. I find paramedics, for the most part, are quite alpha type personalities, so there's a lot of motivation to be the best that you can be, so that provides a lot of motivation to want to constantly learn. And then there's this cognitive process and the context of the learning. So context of the learning can be important, just depending what context it's in. If you think about it in a way that you just had a patient that you didn't understand why they had a poor outcome or something, you want to learn about that, and the cognitive process is just how you think about that. And on the chart on the side, this is my favorite interactive map that I saw. There's a few different ways to present it, but there's just a triangle with different size representing each of those 4 criteria. Some are bigger than others, so that being said, like sometimes context can be the biggest reason why you're learning, and process and person are smaller than context, and other times it can constantly shift. And lots of times, as I said, there can only be 2 there. It doesn't necessarily have to be all 4. So these are just 2 other models of interactive self-directed learning that these 3 gentlemen thought up of. Not one isn't right. I just prefer the one that I showed you, or that model's visualization on the previous page, more than these 2. So I'll just quickly mention 2 other guys. There's 2 other self-directed learning models, and that's the linear and instructional. So instructional is kind of like this course that we're doing, is much more formal, and linear is more moving through steps to reach a goal. That's going from like A to B to C, where C is your goal. No one is superior, but I just feel that the interactive learning approach is the most appropriate for paramedics. The linear model is a bit too, lots of times paramedics are just sitting down, they're studying for 10 minutes, and then we get called and we have to run out the door to the ambulance and drive to a call. And with just the way the healthcare system's set up, we're spread throughout a province. You can't kind of localize us all to one group to bring us through a lecture with a presenter, because some people would have to drive 5 hours to get there. So in that approach, I think the interactive is the best for us. However, there's other healthcare providers, and for people in this course that won't be in healthcare, can also use different standards. So just to sum up, just think about the different self-directed learning styles and which way it would best fit your profession that you're entering into. I know paramedics are a bit different than the typical profession, so we might have different characteristics or looking for different qualities compared to whatever you're going into. So just consider that to think what way you think your self-learning would